Morning, everyone. I can't see anyone except for Mick and Madeline and Mel. So there we go. So it's all happening here in the world. I can't wait to get back outside. As you can tell by my hat and my glasses, I'm excited to get back on the country, and it's getting closer. Hey, in reflection on our year together as bush care, land care, swamp care people, it's been a bit hit and miss. We did a few trees there with Susie and the creating canopies. I think I saw Zwala, Madeline, Brian a little bit, and Jess out and about, and a few other people. But it's really exciting that we're still here. We're still going strong. I've really enjoyed the webinars this year. I actually thought not sitting with people in person would be quite a negative, but I think from a caring for country footprint, I really have seen the beauty of webinars where people we might not get in contact with have come on board. So let's all hope that as we head outdoors into 2022, that equates to more people on ground, on country. As Madeline said, I'm a Gundungurra man from up in the Blue Mountains. We do Gargaree swamp care up here, and it looks like in 2022 there'll be a few more groups on country and a bush tucker garden starting, as well as a few other plans coming along that we can all get together and enjoy. In Gundungurra language, Yarangni, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us with everything that we've tried to do or done in this past 12, 24 months. And I just can't wait till we all sit down around a campfire with some clapsticks and just share some stories again and have a good yarn. So thank you to Greater Sydney Landcare Network for all your support again throughout this year in different times. I know I've pestered you a lot with questions, as I always do, but we're always excited about restoring country and bringing back the bush and just doing some goodness with our people and connecting more to community. For me, you guys are technically off country, so I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where you're sitting and meeting today, and where anybody else is sitting today. I acknowledge their elders past and present. I'm up home today, so I'm on Gundungurra country. So on behalf of my elders past and present, welcome. I hope we have a great time together this morning. I hope this meeting just shows what we've done during these times and what we're going to do. I'm a little bit excited. I got my bucket hat on. I got my sunnies on. I'm ready to get outside. I'm ready to go again and sit out there in that nice, peaceful bit of country where we pull weeds, plant a few trees in that silence. We listen to the bush and we just silently yarn to each other, and we get to have a good cup of tea again together. Hey, I miss those Darbo times. So Galambunyan, Gundunga Marinu. I'm a Gundunga man. I love my land care, bush care, swamp care. Welcome. And again, Yarangni, thank you. I hope you have a great time and a great meeting together.
That's awesome, David. So thank you very much, David. We're back online. We can see you on the big screen, and we can see your picture now. And now I'm going to introduce our first guest speaker today, which is Mick Pedersen. Mick is the president of the Balimba Creek Catchment Coordinating Committee, known as B4C. And for more than 20 years, Mick and the B4C committee have been working to build a strong, financially independent community organisation and social enterprise that restores natural landscapes in urban and industrial Brisbane. So Mick's going to share with us some of B4C's lessons learnt from their approach to land care in the heart of Brisbane City. So please welcome Mick. If you can share your screen and presentation, Mick.
Good. Yeah, and could someone give me I've got 20 minutes, right? Give me a 10-minute call when I'm 10 minutes through.
Okay, I'll give you a 10-minute call.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll just share a couple of screens first, just where the hell I am, which is in Yagara Grumpel country up here in sunny Brisbane. Sorry. I'm just going to share the screen. That's okay. It's going to happen.
Can you let Jessie down, please?
Yep. Okay, here we go. So
Here we go.
we'll start off with Google Earth.
That's all good, Jess. It's all good, mate.
So
Oh, yeah.
if that's come up on the screen okay for you. That little yellow dot is where I am. I'm going to zoom in to show you where we are. Balimba Creek. So that's my little patch that I work in. It's quite a complicated little patch. It's about 122 square kilometres, got about 100,000 people in it, and every piece of built infrastructure known to man. We have everything: sewage treatment plants, waste treatment plants, freeways, electricity substations, gas pipelines, oil pipelines, major highways, you name it, we've got it. So it's a very complicated space. It's a space I've been working in. Well, I started working in the urban catchment movement in the early 80s. This is pre-Landcare, but for the last 24 years, I've been working in the Balimba Creek catchment. And so that's just a bit of a look-see of where we are in Brisbane. And we have, I think, 11 local council representatives, and I think 4 or 5 state representatives and 3 or 4 federal representatives, which all represent fundraising opportunities. So we're very happy to have them. Okay, I'm just going to move to my next screen now and start the slideshow. Yeah, right. Yeah, love retrospective advice from Microsoft. Okay, so this is about industrial land care. That's what I thought it was about. That's what I did the webinar about, but then I read the AGM notice and said it was about creating a financially secure land care movement. Well, I can tell you a bit about our 24-year overnight success story. We're a social enterprise. We have an income each year of about $1 million. We try and make about 10% profit on that, and then we reinvest those profits in the community. So that's a very short answer. That's where our catchment is, which I just showed you. So we're a self-funded urban land care group. We were initially kicked off with a bit of funding from the Federal Government Natural Heritage Trust. We had 3 years worth of funding, but from day one, I told the team, don't depend on government funding, set ourselves up as an enterprise, which means we're always looking for a surplus, which means we're always looking to make money on stuff. And we're quite focused on that. We've had a financial surplus every year for the last 24 years, and that's given us a great deal of flexibility. It's very important for us because government policy changes it changes all the time. Politicians expect land care outcomes in 3 years. Anyone who works in natural resource management will tell you it takes 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 years, however long you like, really. So we're setting an organisation up to last for that sort of time frame. So we need independent funding. We need to be able to do what we want to do, whether or not it's in line with government policy. So we do that, and we're pretty robust about it. We don't mind disagreeing with government in public when we have to, because we've got our own independent funding. We can sort of do that. So that's very handy for us. This is our land care services team picture. So we have a bit of kit to help us do that. Basically what happens is we contract out specialised ecological services to a wide range of potential clients and partners. We got the kit together by getting money from the gaming machines funds. I don't know whether you have them in New South Wales, but here in Queensland we certainly do. And I mean, Queensland politically is a very different space. We don't have statutory catchment management authorities. There is no sort of Queensland land care system per se. It's a network of independent groups. There's no high level, well, very little high level state funding to support it. We tend to pretty much look after ourselves and lobby for it. So you've got the rural land care movement, and then you've got the urban land care movement. We're in the urban land care movement. We're not as sexy as the Queensland Murray-Darling, or we don't have many National Party backbenchers, so we don't get a lot of federal funding. So we've got to fend for ourselves. So we used some grants from the gaming machine to get our first equipment. We used volunteers to do that work. We charged money for that, and we pocketed the money because we weren't paying our workers. So let's just get into it a bit more. First of all, when we're setting up as a business, you have to remember a couple of things: that you're a partner, not a pet. When you set up partnerships or you work with someone commercially, you don't have to be their advocate. And we're certainly not going to roll over and play dead when someone asks us to. If that means we burn a commercial contract, so be it, because our independence is the number one priority for us, that we have to be advocate for the good of the land and for the good of our members. So to that end, partners not pets is a bit of a mantra of ours. Exploitable market niche, find your exploitable market niche and exploit it, find your competitive advantage. Remember that we're profit for purpose. We're not just profit for profit's sake, it's profit for a purpose. So you've always got to plough those profits back in and show your members that you are spending those profits on socially useful things and environmentally useful things, and that money is only the means to the end. And this is part of the competitive advantage. And I'll talk a little bit about this because we have a commercial arm. That's these guys who are out in the field 24/7. We have 3 field teams. And they work with a range of, they do the day-to-day, week-to-week work during the workaday week, but we also work with community services on sentence diversion programs. We also work with labour market programs. We also work with a whole network of volunteer weekend bush care rehab groups. And we have a team of volunteers that support this field team. So behind this field team sits about 20 or 30 volunteers who maintain all the equipment for nothing. They propagate all the plants. They do all that sort of background work to keep that team in the field, and that's part of our competitive advantage. Some of our volunteers have been with us for 25 years, so they retired when they were 60. They're now 80, and they're still working for us. And it certainly helps us. We quote normal commercial rates. We quote good rates. We're not bottom rates. We're not in any Dutch auction. We provide specialised ecological services for a price, and that price is not cheap because our services are good. We then turn our competitive advantage, the fact that we've got this whole volunteer base supporting us and labour market programs supporting us, so that we can turn a surplus to do socially useful things with. So essentially, we've been self-funded after the first 3 years, and we've been self-funded ever since. And we go away and do things with that money. We've bought a couple of nature refuge properties. We've bought a couple of 100 hectares of critical habitat for spotted koalas and brush-tailed rock wallaby in other parts of our region. We lease land from the state government in our catchment because land in our catchment's worth, millions of dollars a hectare. We don't have that sort of money to spend, but we do lease land. We've leased land from railways, Powerlink, main roads and people like that, little bits of unused land, and then we restore and rehabilitate those lands. So we manage about, I think about 100 hectares of land in the catchment, and then work on another 100 and something sites. So if we look at a normal year, like this year, we've only worked on 180 projects on 90 sites, which is a bit down. Normally we're up around 250 projects on 120 sites a year. Normally we plant 20 to 25,000 trees a year. This year it's a bit down, pandemic, 15,000 trees. Obviously volunteers have been a bit down because of the pandemic and things like that. And a lot of our volunteers are in the highest risk category. So it's been quite a challenging couple of years for us, but we've still managed to turn a surplus for both years. We have about 9,000 hours of volunteer time that back up our paid staff. We run 64 events a year. So we have a full-time events coordinator, and our nursery worked 162 days with over 7,000 volunteers. That was in a normal year, and they propagate half of our plants. So we have to buy half of our plants, but we propagate half our plants. And that's how you make the bit of a dollar. That's the competitive advantage. We charge the client retail prices for those plants. Our volunteer and specialist bush care people go out and collect the native local seed. They then have a team of volunteers that grow that from seed, propagate it up to the size where we can take it out in the field and plant it. We still charge the client whatever it is, $5 a tree, which takes into account all the maintenance you have to do for that tree, and it costs us cents. So, that's where we make money. So that's our competitive advantage. So thinking about this, you've got to get into that mindset of where you can make a dollar, where your competitive advantage is, but also so you're not duplicating the work of those on-ground groups or displacing their volunteers. You're sort of leveraging those volunteers. You're leveraging the amount of effort they can put in. You can do the work during the week. They can finish the work on the weekend. So we try and fit in with everyone. We're sort of lucky in that we've got a monolithic council here in Brisbane. There's one council that's got $1 billion budget. We're a preferred supplier with them. We're a preferred supplier with our neighbouring councils as well. We're a preferred supplier with some of the rural councils.
You got 10 minutes, Mick.
Okay. How am I going? You getting what you want?
Yeah, this is great. Keep going. You can go over. It's so good.
Okay. So so you've got to be aware of those business. So you've got to be business-like. You've got to have a proper quoting system. You've got to have a proper client tracking system. You've got to have client relationships. You've got to have a quoting system where you've got the fat built into your quote. And don't cut your costs. Don't cut your costs. Just cut the amount of work you do, because you've got to set the standard. You don't want to compete with the lowest priced contractor out there in the market, because we're delivering a gold standard service. And the reason people keep coming back to us is because when we get paid to plant a tree, you will know that 75 to 80% of those trees will survive and will grow. I can take you to sites where the trees are 25 and 30 feet high now. We've restored entire mangrove ecosystems. We've restored entire salt marshes. So people know that we can deliver the product, so we don't have to get into the cheap side of the market. So we've got our exploitable market niche. We've got our competitive advantage that we're a community organisation with a solid reputation, with a commitment to doing right for the land, with our team of volunteers. Now, sometimes we will spend more money on a site than we make on it, because we are committed to the environmental outcome. So in some sites where the client is a bit stingy, we will add extra plants, we will add extra labour, and that'll be cross-subsidised from other work that we do in other areas. So we have to make a lot of partnerships with people. We've got a charitable arm where we get donations of about $40,000 to $50,000 a year, which we then give away to community groups. We give away about $30,000 in direct grants to community groups each year. We've got our 2 nature refuge properties, plus we do these in-kind love jobs on sites. And we send our work team out to sites that currently don't have any funding, because we're committed to get those environmental outcomes in the long term. So that's how we work. So we do partner with industry. Obviously, we have to partner with industry. We're a heavily industrialised catchment. We get a fair bit of money from some of them from council. So currently it's about 35, 40% council tendering that we get. And then there's another, which is all various tendering, and we do little odd jobs for people that we've made partnerships with, like we do lawn mowing for some, but we're not a lawn mowing contractor per se. It's because it's a specialised wetland area and they need skilled people to do the mowing to make sure they don't mow the native regen down or anything like that. So we do sorts of jobs like that. We have preferred supplier arrangements with Queensland Urban Utilities, which are the people who build all the sewer lines in Brisbane. So whenever they're digging up an area and they rehab an area, we come in, we do the rehab. We also pull in local community people and help with that rehab, because in our budget with them, we have 10% built into the budget that we can spend on local community groups. So that gets local community buy-in on those projects. So we have a 5-year partnership with the Port of Brisbane. We're just signing up for a 5-year partnership, another 5-year partnership with SEQ Water, which is our bulk water provider, to do some work in one of the local water supply catchments. We've had partnerships off and on with them over the years. Corporate partnerships tend to last for about 4 or 5 years. We had 4 or 5 years with Coles Landcare. We had 4 or 5 years with this Port. We've got a long-term relationship with them. We fight with them a lot, but then we work with them a lot. So we've been working with them for about a decade. We're not going away. They're not going away. So we work with them. We've worked with large-scale engineering projects, like, for instance, the Port Motorway, which was like $1 billion project to build a motorway to the port. We were able to use the downtime on machinery in that port motorway to restore an entire salt marsh mangrove ecosystem, to take it from 2 fish species breeding there to 47 fish species breeding there, to fully restore the salt marsh and mangrove by using the downtime of the equipment that they were using to build the road and the downtime of the engineering teams to do all the hydrological modelling. So that's why I said before, money is the means to the end. If you can get what you want without spending the money, that's a form of fundraising, you know, because then you can do things with that you don't have to go and beat the drum for a grant. So we have a large number of industrial partners. We don't rely on any one contract. You can't just focus on one person, because their company priorities will change. Obviously, if the company has a corporate environmental social responsibility policy, it's a lot easier to work with them. You can sort of leverage our community roots to get in there on that sort of basis. But others, it's just they're building something, they need something to rehab. Council have put conditions on them that it has to be rehabbed to a certain standard. We're there, we can do the job. Or a politician will ring up and say, oh, look, I've got some leftover money, or I've got some ward money, or I've got this. Can you give me 15 proposals for rehab in this creek or that catchment or this, that? And we will do up that map. We'll do up those costings and work plans. We'll send people out to inspect it on the ground. and we'll come up with a plan for them. Normally we're given like a week or 2 weeks, but normally we can deliver. We'll get a certain number of them. We won't get a certain number of them. Currently, our win ratio on contracting for quotes is anywhere between 60 and 70%, which is an incredibly good win ratio. Because we don't advertise, work tends to come to us because of our reputation. We have a very active social media presence, and we're very good at promoting ourselves, what our works are, not so much our business, the fact that we do good work. So work tends to come in, we quote for it, we generally get it. So that's pretty good. So just to highlight a few of our industrial partners, which we've been getting into lately, which is corporate volunteering. And I noticed someone on your board is involved with corporate volunteering, so they'll be right into this. But obviously partners, not pets. We've got to look at the reputational impact of who we're working with. One of the people we're working with at the Port of Brisbane is a coal loading facility. Now, coal loading isn't the world's favourite industry right now, but our policy is that I'd prefer them to spend money on the environment while they're still in business than when they're broke. So if they're happy to indulge in mangrove rehabilitation and do solid on-ground works to rehab some of the damage they're doing, I'm happy to take their money. So so we came up with industrial Landcare, and this is the banner we use. It's a big canvas banner. You'll see it in some of the other photos, and we can stick corporate logos on top of it. So it's a reusable banner. So every time we do a corporate volunteer day or a corporate day, we make sure they get what they want, which is number one, marketing. Marketing is the number one thing that corporations want from us. Sometimes it's to do a job that's required by council conditions or state government conditions. Sometimes they're genuinely motivated to try and restore the environment. I won't deny that, but often it's, you know, they're looking for their market edge with their competitors. They're looking to promote themselves clean and green, and we're happy to get some work out of them and get genuine on-ground outcomes. So industrial Landcare, high-vis Landcare. Think about it. It's a good idea. You've got a lot of industry there. You've got a lot of options. Make sure they get work for the environment. Don't just let them get away bludging on the environment. Make sure they work for it. Okay, so ask for in-kind support, not just cash. So we get the receptionist to come out and work for us. The Visi site, which is in this picture, the staff can't walk across the road to our Landcare site. So we've had their reception staff, we've had their cleaning staff, we've had their engineering staff. They've all come across the road and helped us with this project. They are all happy to get out of the office, obviously, and they're happy to work with us. The industry who run it are happy to work with us because we're trusted as being fair and reasonable. I mean, if they deserve a kicking, we'll give them one, but if they deserve a pat on the head, we'll give them one. If they're doing good things, we'll certainly go out there and tell people they're doing good things. We're very professional in what we do, but we're very, we don't make any apologies for being pro-environment to anyone. Some of the partners we've had are Visi, Incitec, Pivot, APA, which is the pipeline group, Port of Brisbane, Queensland Bulk Handlers. We've done floating wetlands, nest boxes, installation and monitoring of wildlife cameras, ecoacoustics. We've helped with water stewardships for Ingham's chickens, major projects with TMR, Powerlink and Energex, and I'm just going to run through all this. So this is what Gibson Island looked like at the Visi site when we started, when we leased the land off the state government. It was a truck stop with a lot of rubbish. This is what it sort of looks like now. So we've had 957 people on site, 18 different Landcare events, 3.5 hectares established, 7,000 plants. So it's hard yards. We don't make big areas. We creep along. We've managed to re-veg about 250 hectares in total in the catchment. We've been able to win through campaigning another 250 hectares of bushland saved, and we've bought a couple of hundred hectares in other locations of habitat. So we have Birds Queensland who monitor our sites to see the efficiency of it. We've had 16% more species and 67% more total birds in the first 2 years since we've been doing the rehab, including this little guy here. So we monitor our sites, and that's a partnership we're making with Birds Queensland to monitor our sites to prove that the work we're doing does yield environmental outcomes. And I think these guys are pretty happy and they're breeding there. So I'm very happy with that. Other sites we've had raptors come back and things like that. So I'm very happy, and wallabies and all sorts of other stuff. So this is some of the group who do it. So this is a mixture of high-vis land carers plus our volunteers from bush care groups and our paid staff all mixed together. And there's a state, was there a federal member in there? Yes, there we are. Ross Vast, one of the Vastas sitting there in the middle. So they're always happy to come down for a photo opportunity. We had to come up with a nice little logo, the Gibson Island Rehab Project, to show it was an industrial project. They really get a kick out of it because it's not just your normal bush care. You've got the factory setting in the back of it. So we get all sorts of companies come here. So some of these are Energex volunteers. Some of these are Port of Brisbane volunteers coming out to the Gibson Island side. Some of these people work on gas pipelines. Some of these people work loading coal. But here they are, you know, planting trees, plugging in the life support systems, doing the job they have to do. One of the partners we have is PowerLink. They build all the power lines. Not an obvious partner for a catchment group, but we work with them. We do a lot of nest box monitoring. You can see Stefan there with his pole, which is since upgraded to a fiberglass pole, given where he works sometimes. And they actually work with us. We lease land off them for $1 a year for our sustainability centre, which we do on a rolling 5-year lease. So we're under the power lines, but we've been able to do all this great habitat work. We work with Main Roads to come up with fauna overpass solutions. We have 2 fauna overpasses in our catchment. I think they're big fauna overpasses and they work. We have proof of monitoring of animals using them. So our fauna overpassing does work. We've had Daryl Jones from Griffith University advising us on that. So we then leveraged that into a workshop involving industry partners across the catchment, talking about fauna movement solutions and what you can do to make roads more wildlife friendly, from rope bridges to proper underpasses and tunnels, proper furniture, all that sort of stuff. So we then leveraged that. I think that you can see there's about 60 or 70 people at that workshop. We're now one of the sort of leaders in doing that sort of design. So whenever they build that sort of infrastructure, we make sure they come to see us and we talk about how to get wildlife safely under, over or through the road. Ingham's, we work with Ingham's. They make a lot of the chicken. I'm a vegetarian, but doesn't matter. I've still got to work with them because they're a part of the environment. They've now established wetlands and floating wetlands to polish a lot of their industrial water. They can reuse a lot of their water. We've had double the number of bird species come back. It goes through a sequence of environmental filters and polishing ponds before it goes into the groundwater. It's monitored for all the waste. A lot of the water gets recycled through their reverse osmosis plant, but this allowed them to get an international water stewardship standard. And we're still working with them down on the site to get better and better outcomes. They're right next to a very critical wetland. So staff are going from their lunch break to do bird spotting for us over there. Plus they're able to look out and have that amenity of making that. We've got Ricali down there, which is pretty good. So I'm happy with that project. Port of Brisbane, this is one of the floating wetland bird roosts we did with the Port of Brisbane. This is in a lake they wanted to fill for a car park, so we had to kick them a bit to make sure that that didn't happen. But now we're in there sort of rehabbing it for them, and we sort of work with them on that. Oxbow Wetlands, this is a site we did 20 years ago, which it looked like this. If you can see the before shot of just 4-wheel drive tracks, now we've restored the salt marsh. The mangrove ecosystem was dead and dying. We've had PhD students monitoring it over the last 20 years. We've had some wallaby come back in there. We've had raptors come back. We've had 47 fish species. It's one of the largest coastal rehab projects in Queensland. So we're pretty proud of that. And we're 20 years in. We've got another 20 or 30 years to go before we get really, get on top of the weeds. It's a long job, and that's why we need to be financially independent. So Energex, yet another provider. You can see our reusable sign popping up there, the B4C Industrial Landcare sign. We'll get a bigger one soon. Queensland Bulk Handlers, they're the coal people, not everyone's friend. Vizzy, Richard, the Pratt family actually gave us some money from their own personal funds. So that was good. Queensland Urban Utilities, Incitec Pivot, which is a fertiliser company, not your normal ally for Landcare, but they're happy to send their corporate volunteers along, complete with their families. So we're happy to do that. We're happy to take their work. So this is some of the industrial Landcare projects we do in the lower catchment. So there's Ingham's, Oxbow and Gibson Island. Through community pressure, we've been able to keep most of this floodplain undeveloped, which means, of course, we have to object to development, kick and scream. But in the meantime, we're working with rehab on it, and we're working with our industrial partners. So there you go. There's a little bit of a Cook's tour, not to invoke the Cook's River at all, of what we're getting up to in Brisbane.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating and extremely inspiring. We've got a bit of time for questions. So if you're online, you can also type your questions in. And is anybody in the room got a question for Mick? Yes, we'll have to speak into the microphone so that everybody can hear.
Hi, Mick. Congratulations on results instead of bullshit. Can you give me a bit of information about the council work? You've gone through some of the corporations. What about the council? What do you do for them?
Which work, sorry?
Councils. The
Council's work?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a monolithic council here in Brisbane. It's called the Brisbane City Council. All the councils were amalgamated into one in 1910 or 1920 or something like that. So it's huge. It's like $1 billion is its annual budget. It has 26 wards. Each ward has a certain amount of funding that they can discretionarily spend. They have a natural environment program and a catchment management program where they do creek rehabilitation. They have a Habitat Brisbane program where they provide in-kind support for habitat restoration work. They have a voluntary conservation scheme, which we work with as well. So we have links to all those different departments, including the works department. So whenever they're doing a culvert upgrade or a works upgrade, we sort of get to hear about it and we talk with them. It took us about 10 years to get a preferred supply arrangement. Obviously, you have to have the quality assurance in place to do that. We don't have ISO 9000, but we're working towards that. There's a lot of effort involved with that for community groups, but you have to have quality assurance processes in place, and we do. And we had a track record. So we had a track record of working with them and working through the councillors for 4 or 5 years or 6 years. And then we got on the preferred supplier list for specialised ecological services. That's our market niche. It's not lawn mowing, it's not general contracting, it's specialised ecological services. So they have a list of about 4 or 5 contractors they can use for that, and we're on the list. We're on the list with the neighbouring council, Redlandshire Council. We're on the list with one of the rural councils, Scenic Rim, because we've done some work down there. We can travel about 2 or 3 hours away from where we are effectively and still do work. We've got a partnership with the neighbouring Ipswich City Council. We've got a Silver Environmental Award for them for the work we did there. But by and large, most of our work is in Brisbane, and most of our work's in and around Brisbane, and we work with the other catchment groups. So we've got about 60 different council contacts on our contacts database, because each particular unit has their own contracting person and work sign-off person. So there's quite a lot of investment you have to do to understand exactly how the council works, how council budgets work, how council tendering works. And then you need to make sure you can get your shoe in the door. Mostly they will approach us with work or new ideas they want to do. Generally, we're not scanning the tender box all the time. Generally, work floats up towards us because it's specialised sort of work.
Great. Thank you very much, Mick. Let's have one last quick question from Jasmine.
I just wanted to know about employing or, young people, particularly Aboriginal young people.
Okay, young people, our investment in young people starts off with bursaries in school and school environment groups, where we encourage those groups to come to our centre. We have an Intrepid Landcare, which we help fund here in Brisbane. We help fund the Brisbane Catchment network here in Brisbane. The traditional owner space is complicated, as it is everywhere, and we certainly encourage anyone who wants to be involved to get involved. Have we been totally successful? No. It's complicated, but we're there. I mean, we know who people are, and they know who we are, and they come to us when they need support, and we certainly give them support. I won't get into all the ins and outs of that, but when you got formal legal arrangements sitting on top of actual arrangements, and the formal legal arrangements are all geared to help the people who aren't from there, and the actual people who are from there are cut out from that arrangement, it makes your life complicated. So we've encouraged Inghams and all the industries we know to employ young people, including young traditional owner, First Nation people, and we're always on the lookout for partnership opportunities.
Thank you, Mick. Can I ask? Okay, we've got one more question. No, you're all right. It's a bit interesting, so we're going to do it. No, you need to use the microphone so that online audience.
Sorry. Hi, amazing presentation. My mind is on fire right now. How do you balance the issue of greenwashing and not being seen to be the green seal of approval on top of some of these corporations?
We
And they
bite.
your members being annoyed at you.
We bite.
I like that. Touching face on.
If it's not genuine environmental outcomes, we're not going to be involved. If it's genuine environmental outcomes, I'll take their money, because they're better off. They'd better repair the planet. All the damage that's been done, they'd better be in there with their hands in their pocket repairing the planet, or I'll be after them, you know. But if they just want to make happy slappy sort of stuff, forget it. I'm not interested. If they want to sort of greenwash a particular project and we don't think it's a good project, we'll tell them it's not a good project and we won't work with them. And if they want to do something like fill in a lake that we thought was an important bird roost and a bird habitat, we'll go out there and campaign. We'll make alliances with the RSPCA. We're on TV, radio. I don't mind giving them a good kicking if they need it. And we're partners, not pets. Don't make any mistake. Don't try and greenwash with us. And that's what I'll tell them up front.
Love it. Thank you, Mick. Everybody, please clap your hands for Mick.